Yeah. So we have two very special guests today. Could you gentlemen do me a favor and introduce yourselves?
Yes, my name is John X. Mataka, and I'm with the Grayson Neighborhood Council and Valley Improvement Projects.
Thank you.
My name is Jose Saldaña, and I am a resident of South Sacramento. I work on environmental justice issues in my own time.
Thank you, and I appreciate both you gentlemen sharing your time today. What we're doing today, with this segment is I want to do is a lot of the times there's issues going on in the community, and there are situations that impact us as Chicanos, and we want to make a change, but we don't know how to go about it. So I know you both have done a lot of great works in your communities, and I want to pick your brains and just see what we can do, as individuals to do something collectively, if that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
So, the first thing I want to get started with is we can just get a little bit of your guys' backstory. What got you guys involved in advocacy?
Okay, go ahead,
John.
Well, for me, I was always raised on West Side Modesto. I grew up there, and I had an opportunity to build a self-help home, sweat equity they call it nowadays, in Grayson, which is in Stanislaus County, unincorporated area, about 1,000 people, mostly Spanish-speaking raza, around, that's surrounded by orchards. So we built 11 homes out there, and I moved out there in 1979, and I raised my family out there. So make a long story short, not too long after I got out there, I was approached by some people, and I found out that we had the only tire incinerator in the state of California, which was burning tires in Wesley, which is about 2-3 miles. Well, Wesley is a mile up the road, but the plant was in the foothills, a couple of miles off the I-5 there in Wesley. So we got together, and we know that anytime you burn anything, it's unhealthy for the air. They say they got all these emission monitors and all this other crap, but that's bullshit. Anytime you burn something, it's going to cause problems with breathing and air quality. That's just no matter what kind of filter you got on. So to make a long story short, they this gringo named Ed Philbin had put 45 million tires in this canyon where they built this plant to burn them. 45 million.
Damn.
To give you an idea what that looks like, you know what a Tonka truck is? I don't want to date myself here, but those old school Tonka trucks?
Yes.
Diesel truck. Well, they took a real diesel double trailer and parked it in front of these tires, and that real diesel truck looked like a Tonka truck compared to the mountain of tires, 45 million tires.
Damn.
So to make a long story short, they were all in a pile. They weren't separated. So the day that if they ever caught fire, it was going to be a disaster. So we sued them through California Rural Legal Assistance and this lady, Solange Gonzalez, and we forced them to start separating those tires. We didn't like the fact that they were burning them, but like they do in our communities, they sneak these polluting industries in before anybody knows what's happening. Next thing you know, they're there because we don't go to the Board of Supervisors meeting per se. We don't go to the city council meetings. We don't look at their agendas, because we're busy trying to survive, make a living, working, raising children. So we really aren't hip that that's how they sneak this stuff in. So anyway, they were burning tires, and they got down to 9 million left. And actually today is the 22nd anniversary. On September the 22nd, lightning struck. Some pendejo left a big metal plate out there, and it hit that, and it started these 9 million tires on fire.
Damn.
So when a tire burns, it emits methane, not methane, but what's the other one? That really dangerous chemical from gas. oh, I can't think of it right now, but anyway, it's carcinogenic.
Mhm.
And so the community rose up, the farmers were upset, we were upset, and they wanted to let it burn out because they had did that in Tracy several years after that. They just let it burn out, which would take a couple of years. So we told them,
Couple
no,
of years?
you're going to help us get this out or we're going to blow it up. We're going to do something. We're not just going to breathe this shit for 2 years. That's not happening. So through pressure from the community and stuff, they got these guys that fought the oil well, because they said the tire fire cannot be put out. It just never has happened. And we said, well, this will be the first because you're going to put this one out. So they brought the guys that did the oil well fires in Kuwait. John Wayne did a movie about them called Red Adair.
Oh,
They
shit.
brought them out with these massive equipment and massive hoses. And 34 days later, they put those 9 million tires out. Well, that was kind of my introduction into environmental justice. So then we supervised in the cleanup. Bottom line is they'd never get that site cleaned up good enough, but we did what we could to get it mostly cleaned up. So not too long after that, I found out that not only did we have the only tire incinerator in the state of California, but we had 1 out of 3 garbage incinerators outside of Crow's Landing. See, I didn't know that when I moved there.
Yeah.
And they burn 800 tons of garbage a day. Again, they say it doesn't pollute, but we know that dioxin, because they burn plastics in there too. They don't sort the shit out. So anyway, we had that there, and we've been fighting to try to get them to recycle more and not to burn. Well, in Oakland, they had a medical waste thing on High Street. There were 22 schools located on High Street, communities of color, Black and brown communities, Asian communities on High Street in Oakland. And they did massive protests and stuff. They finally closed it down. Well, I didn't know it, but they'd made a deal with Stanislaus County, and they were planning on bringing that medical waste to the incinerator there in Crow's Landing, out by where I live. So this group called Green Action, a gentleman by the name of Bradley Angel, he contacted us and made us aware of it. So we organized in the community. We called doctors, we called people, we wrote petitions. We told them why we didn't want the medical waste here, that it was bad enough burning garbage. We didn't want that here. And bottom line is we were able to defeat that through community involvement and going to the Board of Supervisors. But the key was we stopped it before they started it. See, that's what most people don't understand. Once they start something polluting in your community, it takes an act of God to get them to stop. So the key is you got to stop it before it starts. So we were able to defeat that. That was in 2000, right after we had that disaster.
Can I share something real quick, John?
Yeah, go ahead.
I saw a recent article, and when you had told me this initially, I was actually kind of shocked because recycling is something that I really value. And so for the audience, Javier, Modesto was a leader in recycling. They had one of the first recycling programs, and it was, I'll let you tell the rest of the story, but I thought that was an important point that, you guys did have this really good thing going, and it was taken away to meet quotas for the incinerator, as, I understand it and read it.
Well, no, that's exactly right. And that's a very good point. See, that's our whole point right now. Now there's only 2 incinerators, one in Long Beach and one in Crow's Landing. Commerce got closed down, but they have to feed 800 tons a day. So Modesto is the largest city in Stanislaus County, 200,000 people. So they do not have a recycling program. Small cities of 25,000 like Patterson and Turlock, Ceres, they all have recycling programs, but the city of Modesto doesn't. Why don't they? Because the city of Modesto and Stanislaus County signed a contract with Covanta to provide them with 800 tons of garbage a day. So if they recycle, they know what will happen. They won't be able to provide them that 800 tons a day, So they'll have to pay out of their pocket because that's the way those contracts go. So there's no incentive for them to recycle. So make a long story short, what ended up happening was we defeated that. And then to show you the way they keep coming at you, that was in 2000. In 2001, 2002, we have the only landfill in Stanislaus County right there where the incinerator is located. So they had a plan. They were going to make a mega landfill there at the landfill. And they were going to, by train, they were going to bring trash from LA and the Bay Area by train to make this mega landfill. And it was going to be so big that you could, there's a hotel in Modesto called the Doubletree. It's about 15 stories high or whatever. Well, it was going to be as high as that hotel. It was going to be a huge mega landfill, right? So we organized, again, the community before it happened. We organized, and and we were able to stop that also because we told them, you know what you're doing is environmental racism. The whole west side where I live of Stanislaus County is primarily Latino, all through the west side, all through Newman, Patterson, Crow's Landing, Grayson, Wesley, Bernales, all probably around 60% Latino now. It was higher back then. And we said, you know, we had the only tire incinerator that caught fire and caused all that pollution. We have one of 3 garbage incinerators, and we have the only landfill in the county, all in our area. Why is that? And the CEO at the time, Regan Wilson, he had made a comment and said, well, there's nothing out there but squirrels, right? And, oh, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. And so I'm at the library, and I guess I was talking too loud. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Because I got a meeting coming up, but I'll just step back here a little bit so I don't have to worry about too much. And so anyway, so we defeated that, you know, the mega landfill like we did the waste incinerator. So what ends up happening is in the middle of all this, and we're saying it's environmental racism, you know, we found out about this report that they call the Sorrell report. And the Sorrell report was Waste Management, California Waste Management hired these consultants to tell them where they could place these polluting industries without too much community, you know, backlash. Mm. So they came out with this report. It's Sorrell, it's Cerrell. I think it was in the late 70s. And what they came up with was place them in Spanish-speaking, rural communities, primarily agricultural, Catholic communities, you know, small communities where, you know, it's high in agriculture, all these. So they did that to a T in Latino communities. You can go up and down Highway 99, up and down Highway 5, and all these small Latino communities have polluting industries in there, prisons included, because they followed that advice of that consultant to the T. And so anyway, and I'm going to wrap it up with this. Out of all of our work to defeat this, people started investigating, and come to find out the CEO, after the tire fire, he tried to buy that plant for his own private business deals. He had gave a contract to this guy to bring medical waste here from the county. He did all these incentives while he was CEO to get waste, because, you know, like the mafia says, waste is big money. Yeah. Garbage is big money, to bring them there. So we were able to, he had to resign as a result of all that. We got rid of our supervisor because we told him, you're worthless. You ain't worth a damn. We don't, you know, we got rid of him. And we told the new one that came in, look, we don't want, you better not be putting anything else like this out here, because, you know, that's the only reason why we got you in here. So that's been our story. And what I learned out of all of this is you have to be proactive. You have to stop it before it gets established. Mm-hmm. Once it's established, Covanta is over 30 years old. And old plants pollute a lot more because they have breakdowns and they have to make repairs, and every time they have to restart it, it pollutes more. So we learned that you have to stop it before it starts. But the only way you're going to do that is if you organize and make people aware. And really what you have to have is you have to have somebody from the community that's going to keep an eye on what is being planned for your community at the city level and at the county level, because these little polluting things have to come through cities and counties before they get approved at the state. And so you really have to keep a watch on what's coming into your community, because if you don't, the next thing you know, you go to sleep one day, you don't have it. The next day you wake up and you got this polluting industry and causing all this illness for your children and your community. So that's how I got involved in it. And we're continuing to do that to this day. And then I'm not even starting with pesticide drift and some of the other stuff that we're exposed to. Highway 99, Highway 5, and then also the warehouses. You know, we got un chingo the warehouses. You know, Kohl's, CVS, Amazon, restorative furniture out there on the outskirts of Patterson. And all those trucks come through our area, through Grayson and Wesley and stuff. So, you know, all of our communities, all in Raza in our communities, we're exposed to all of this stuff because we really, you know, I don't know how to say it any other way, but we're so busy trying to scrape and make a living and raise our families and stuff that by the time we get through at the end of the day, you know, we're not thinking about going and sitting in a meeting for an hour or two to find out what's going on, truth be told. And the other thing is, the only way that I found out that you get people to get involved is you have to make them aware of how it's affecting their children and their children's health in particular, you know, and even their own health, you know, because a lot of these pollutions cause diabetes, heart problems, asthma, you know, all these polluting industries and stuff. So that's how I got into it. And, you know, once you get into it, you know, you never really get out of it because there's always something, you know, our community has been attacked for years and is still being attacked. You know, you go to Kettleman City and the toxic dump there for years. You go to Arvin, they got stuff. You go to, in Modesto, they had the tallow company for over 50 years, right across from an elementary school where they, you know what tallow is? It's when
No.
they have dead horses and dead cows.
Oh,
and
shit.
and then they send them to the tallow place and they cook them.
Stinks bad.
Yeah, they cook that what am I say?
They render
they
the
cook
fat
the
for
meat.
oil.
Yeah, but they cook the spoiled meat from the dead animals, and it just stinks to high heaven. And for over 50 years, that whole community, it's all Latino community on Crows Landing Road, could not eat outside. The kids got nosebleeds. It was just a mess. And finally, you know, over the years, we finally got that closed. And what a difference that made. What a difference in the community out there. It's like night and day, you know. So anyway, that was my intake. So I've said enough, but go ahead, Jose.
Thank you so much, John. And, you know, if I could just touch on a couple of things is with that smell and you mentioning the change now, it kind of illustrates and highlights how oppressive these things are to people. You know, you can't go outside in your house that you own in the yard. And so, and also when you mentioned the warehouses, I remember being in the Inland Empire and hearing that despite all those warehouses, there's not a lot of stores where people can buy the things that are in those warehouses. Right. And it reminded me of the farm workers who were picking the fruit but couldn't afford to eat it. And you know, so there's some analogy there. And I, you know, the stories you told were of the rural communities. And so I'll try to incorporate the cities into my intro. So About 4 years ago, I was asked to join a group that does environmental justice work. And I was asked based on, I would just speak up for people. If it didn't matter if you were the head of the agency, if you were like saying something one way and I thought we were asking for something else, I would bring it up. And so once I joined that team, I started going out to communities and being made aware of the issues in them. And some of them I've shared with you, Javier. In the cities, there was the Exide battery plant that was not inspected or regulated enough and did a lot of pollution and harm to the people in East Los. There was the Coronado Bridge, like the freeways that went through Barrio Logan. And then the junkyards were all put there, and the community was never asked about these things. And so what really drew me in was I started seeing the way the counties and the cities and the regional governments implemented, stuff that Latino politicians wrote with good intentions and that, could help our communities, but were being implemented such that they were still disfavoring the people that legislation was intended to protect. And where I'm at, the people that were closest to the greatest sources of pollution, at least as far as permitted sources, were almost all Spanish speakers. Right. And there were truck stops and storage facilities and transportation, refrigeration, cold storage facilities. All these things I know pollute. And in implementing this, my impression was that there was a deliberate effort to exclude the raza. And and I'll be honest, I was saddened because I saw some of the folks that were doing it were also raza.
Right.
And a lot of the systemic racism can't happen without people of color, selling it to the people in a lot of places. Mm-hmm. And I also noticed that, in the grant game, that Black folks were, at least in the environmental justice field, really not included as much as everyone else. And that didn't seem fair to me. And I knew that, at least where I live in Sacramento, I share my neighborhood with Arab people, Hmong people, Vietnamese people, Black people, almost like in equal numbers. It's got a body of flavor more than anything, but I thought that all these people deserved a voice in the processes.
Definitely.
And that's kind of what brought me in, was wanting people to know, like John said, be made aware of these things and be afforded the opportunity to speak up about them in their own voice. Because ideally, I don't want to speak for anyone. I would rather people speak for themselves. And if I could help them do that, that's what I would want to do. And so that's how I kind of came into this work. I've only been into it for like 4 years. And in my own time, less than that. But I see your show, Javier, and I see that a lot of people have actually, we're past surviving, and I feel like we're ready to thrive and give back and learn more because, we have overcome a lot, and we can empathize with people who maybe aren't being outreached to or being made aware of stuff. And, I feel like a lot of the subs are in a place where, they can give back now because, it's moved a little bit past surviving. And so I'll stop there because I want John to talk more than me.
Yeah. So,
you know what? You got a very valid point there. Part of the issue is all these people that make these decisions, like boards of supervisors and city councils and even state and federal people, they have these meetings to deal with the issues that affect our community during the middle of the day.
people are at work.
Yeah, and so we're working. Even if we wanted to go, we can't miss a day of work, And so what we would tell people when we were dealing with them, okay, we want to call a meeting here, but we want you here from 6 to 8 after people get off work, and because maybe get their children a little something to eat so they can come. So we want it in the evening. I know you only work 8 to 5, but oh well. You're going to have to get past that, and you're going to have to come out at a time to meet. You say you want the community's input, well, then you're going to have to come at a time that the community can come. So we're kind of boxed out a lot of times because, especially boards of supervisors and city councils, they're pretty stuck on their 9 a.m. meetings, And then the other thing that is that they don't provide Spanish translation unless you request it. All right, that should be a given. They should have it all the time.
To
But you have to,
understand the community that they're serving.
yeah, but you have to request it. And the thing of it is that I tell people this like it is. I don't care if it's a white face, a brown face, or a black face. If you're doing something that's negatively affecting my community, don't just because you're a Latino doesn't mean I'm not going to jam you. Or just because you're black and you're not white, I'm not going to jam you. I'm going to jam you regardless of what ethnic group you come from. If you're doing something that is going to damage, my community. And I think the other thing is too that a lot of times, when they have meetings, they'll put out the meat of what the meeting's about in English, but they don't put it out in Spanish.
Mm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you're working with a handicap in our communities, because like in the community where I live, a lot of the educational level is probably averages around 6th grade, and when they translate stuff into Spanish, they come up with some like college level Spanish. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, we don't use that college like, we use, a more not a lower level, but we use
A simpler version.
Simpler version in Spanish, for different words and stuff. And so there's a lot of stuff that comes into play there, but the biggest thing is that people have to be made aware of what's in their community. I tell people, if you live in a small community, particularly wherever you live in your neighborhood, you should make your own assessment of what's in your neighborhood. What is in your neighborhood that you really don't think is healthy for your neighborhood, regardless of what it is, and then once you find out what it is that's unhealthy, then you need to make people aware of it, number one, and then you need to get a few people that are like-minded and start forming, a committee to try to make some change in that, and then, find out what you have to do that. And when you have meetings, you got to have them in the evening with community people. And it's kind of like what the United Farm Workers did. They used to go house to house and have house meetings. 4 or 5 people in a house meeting. They would start.
So basically, would they start the meeting before the official meeting went on, kind of like prepare for that meeting?
No, I'm talking about when you're organizing just to do whatever in your community, to take action. It's very difficult organizing people because of their schedules, and they don't know the importance of these issues affecting their health. So first of all, you have to win their confidence. You have to show them that you're legit, that you're honest, that you care about your community, the reason why you're doing it. And the best way to do that is have 4 or 5 people that live around you have a meeting at your house, invite them over, have something to eat, talk about what's going on, what you're trying to do, so that they get to know you. Sometimes, it's sad to say, but nowadays, sometimes we don't even know everybody on our street. We might know a couple of people on our street, but we might not, know everybody, And so, you know, you have to let people see that you care, that you're compassionate, that you're sincere about what you want to do. And then after you meet with them a few times, then you ask them for some help. And then whatever they say they can do, you let them do whatever they say they can do. Maybe they say, well, I don't have a whole lot of time to devote to it, but what I can do is I can help pass out flyers for the meeting. Okay, cool. That's fine. Okay, well, I don't have a whole lot of time to do this, but you know what? I can make some food for the meeting and I can be at the meeting. Okay, cool. You know what? I don't get off work till later, but I can send my wife and my brother-in-law and whoever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, you know, you have to win people's confidence. You can't organize in your community without winning their confidence. They have to see that you're real. You know, that you're real. And they have to see that you're not asking them for no money. You don't ask them for no money. You don't ask them for nothing like that, because that'll tear up a organizing thing in a hot minute. You know, it's all volunteer, you know, and the goal is to build up a system of volunteers that are passionate as you are about the issue, that, you know, that down the road, when you're no longer here, you have a group of volunteers that have been organized in your community that can pick up the banner and keep rolling, you know? So anyway, Jose?
Definitely. So I wanted to ask, because I know both of you are based in Northern California. Before the big tech, before big tech really took off, was Silicon Valley always the way it was, or did that start changing afterwards? Or are you guys even aware of that?
Well, maybe Jose can speak to that more better than I can. As far as I know, this is all I can say about that. Silicon Valley wasn't always Silicon Valley.
Okay.
There was a point when all this technology took off, and that just kind of like sprung up with these big companies like Google and what's the other one?
Facebook and
all of these. And so then they started placing them in that area. But it wasn't always there, you know, and what's happened as a result of that, a lot of poor people have got displaced. They can no longer live in that area. Now it's off limits to them. You know, you got to have a job in high tech, you know, making a lot of money to live in those areas nowadays, and it's forcing people out. You know, I was talking to a friend of mine just today, and he says Newark, in Newark, California. I don't know if you're familiar with Newark is, over there towards the Bay Area. He says, and he's a Latino, and he said his brother lives over there. He says you hardly see any Latinos in Newark anymore. It's all Asian, Indian, and white, and they all work in the tech industry. And the homes are like going for $1 million.
Yeah, the only reason I bring it up is because it does seem like Silicon Valley now is a lot more protected, right? You're not going to go in there and you're not going to put pollution, like a lot of industries that are going to pollute the area in Silicon Valley. And it's kind of crazy to me because it shows they have money backing them, but it does show that change can be made, even though that's a crazy change and it's a change that benefits them. It shows that if we maybe have, obviously don't have the money that they have, but if we can organize, maybe we can make those same kind of changes in our community. What do you guys think about that?
I would add that there are folks I work with and some people I know in Alviso, which is, I think, in the Silicon Valley, or if not on the outskirts.
Right.
And they also get the industries that the wealthier parts of Silicon Valley don't want. So if there is a group of Raza living there or a community of color, they will get the same treatment that, you know, West Side Modesto did with putting everything there. And, you know, if you ever want to have follow-ups, Javier, I could just invite somebody from Alviso to talk about, you know, how their community
definitely
has experienced racism as well. And and there's actually folks from San Jose State, a professor that watches these and, you know, really likes them and is supportive as well. So, you Yeah,
Well,
it's like I said, I'd rather have them tell you their story
yeah,
themselves.
yeah, that makes sense. But on that point, just to show you this gentleman that I was talking about, uh, my wife's nephew, his brother lives there, and in
In
Newark,
Alviso?
in Newark,
Okay.
Remember how I told you how the poor people, Rasa's out, the whole dynamics of, they're all people that work in the tech industry there now, and these $1 million homes in Newark. And so he went, he has an EBT card, right? so he went to this Mexican market. There's, I guess, a chain of Mexican markets in the Bay Area, but they had one of these in Newark, and he went to get some groceries and stuff because he was staying for a week with his brother. And when he popped out the EBT card, real quick, the lady said, "Oh no, we don't take that here." So he couldn't believe it. He says, "I don't know any store that don't take a EBT card," but they didn't take EBT card. And so then he goes, "Well, it's almost like they don't want no poor people in this town. The houses are $1 million. You got to work in the tech industry. They don't even they don't even take a EBT card. You know what I'm saying?"
Yeah.
It kind of sent it home with me is that, well, yeah, that's probably right. That sounds about right. To me it does. But anyway.
Yeah, it's crazy because companies like Amazon are some of the main beneficiaries when it comes to their employees having to receive like EBT and Medi-Cal and things of that nature because they won't split the bill. So to me, that's just nuts. You know what I mean? Like their employees have to live off of that because they don't make the livable wages and they don't have benefits, but they won't accept it in those areas. So that's just, it's kind of crazy.
That's just like in the Valley, Walmart is the same way. A good majority of Walmart employees have to get assistance.
Yeah.
You know,
Those are
but I
full-time employees.
just want to touch on a point that Jose brought up about the agricultural workers uh, didn't have access to what was it, Jose, that you said they didn't have access to?
Oh, they said that they couldn't afford the fruit that they were picking. And so they
Okay,
would
yeah,
work in the fields and they would go to stores and it was too expensive for them.
well, exactly. And this is my point. During the COVID-19, when it first started, we did a survey on the whole West Side that I've been talking to you about. We're, primarily Latino, and we went to areas and surveyed people, and the top two, and that's all agriculture, right? And the top two priorities that they said they needed during COVID-19, well, 1 and 2 was food and rental assistance. And we were shocked at the food because people were during COVID, were surviving in this high agricultural area. Everything is grown. They were surviving on food commodities. You know how they give out food commodities once a month? And food banks.
Yeah.
That's how they were surviving because a lot of the people were undocumented, right? And they don't get food stamps. They don't get, services. They ain't got no EBT card. You understand what I'm saying? So they were surviving on food banks and commodities. So we were able to get commodities twice a month out there where I live, and then also mental health services. A lot of Raza had a lot of mental health issues during COVID-19, and they were asking for their children in particular.
Can I jump in real quick, John?
Yeah, go ahead.
Javier has been doing mental health Mondays to kind of help address the taboos in our raza about talking about mental health.
Yeah.
And so he's been doing really good work on destigmatizing it for our community. Sorry to interrupt. I just
Appreciate
wanted to
that.
highlight that.
Well, that's good. And I'd like to send me a link because I'd like to see that because we're trying we're in the process of starting some support groups that are non-threatening for Spanish speaking in particular around mental health issues.
Yeah. Thanks for watching that video. Much love to all the subscribers. Appreciate you guys. Much love to anyone who just checked out the video also. I invite you guys to check out the website if you want to peep any of the merch, incrediblejavier.com. You can just go ahead and click on the catalog, see everything we have to offer. We have new shirts now. We have the Incredible Javier shirt, the logo right there. That's courtesy of Shady Boy. We have that one there. Ooh, we also have the Young OG. The Young OG shirt right there, looking extra fly. We also have the original YA baby shirt. We have it in sleeveless, or we have it in, we actually have the Young OG in sleeveless also. We have that in sleeveless, or we have it on a regular shirt. And we still carry the custom YA baby shirts. So let me go ahead and show you guys how the custom YA baby shirts work. You have the OG YA baby there. What you're gonna go ahead and do is click add to cart. Once you do that, you go ahead and click on the cart. There's gonna be a note section there. Type in your YA number, and then bam, check out. That's how you do it. Much love to everybody. Go ahead and check it out. We got beanies, like I said, tank tops, t-shirts. Hope you guys have a great evening. And with that, we out.